Is World War III on the horizon? A question that sends shivers down our spines. Our purpose today is to dissect this chilling possibility, to delve deep into the precipice we may be standing on. We'll ponder on the implications of such a global conflict, the aftermath, and the potential path back from the brink. These are heavy topics, but vital ones. So brace yourself as we walk this tightrope between peace and chaos. Let's delve into the events that have led us to this point. To understand our current predicament, we must first take a journey back in time. Our tale begins in the early 21st century. The world was a complex tapestry of nations, each with their own ambitions and fears. In the early 2000s, the global stage was set for a dramatic shift. The United States, the reigning superpower, was embroiled in conflicts in the Middle East. Its focus on these wars left other areas of the world vulnerable to shifts in power balance. Meanwhile, China, a rising economic powerhouse, began to flex its geopolitical muscles. It expanded its influence across Asia, Africa, and even into Europe. This expansion was not without resistance, leading to a series of political and economic standoffs. In the mid-2000s, Russia, a former superpower still smarting from the loss of its Soviet empire, reasserted itself. It invaded neighboring territories and interfered in global politics, causing a ripple effect of tensions. By the late 2000s, the world was a tinderbox. The Middle East was still in turmoil, with new conflicts arising and old ones resurfacing. The economic downturn of 2018 had left many nations reeling, and the rise of populist and nationalist movements further stoked the flames of conflict. The early 20s saw a resurgence of Cold War-style tensions. The United States, China and Russia were all vying for global dominance. Their actions, in turn, spurred a complex web of alliances and rivalries, further complicating the geopolitical landscape. The global pandemic of 2020 and its aftermath only added fuel to the fire. Nations turned inwards, focusing on their own survival. International cooperation faltered, and old grievances resurfaced. The world seemed to be teetering on the brink of a new global conflict. In the midst of all this, the climate crisis worsened. Natural disasters, food shortages, and mass migrations exacerbated existing tensions and sparked new conflicts. The world was becoming a more dangerous place, and the threat of a Third World War loomed ever larger. Now, in the late 20s, we find ourselves at a critical juncture. The geopolitical landscape is more complex and volatile than ever before. The world is a powder keg, and it would only take a single spark to ignite a global conflict. In the face of this, we must ask ourselves, how did we get here? What choices did we make or fail to make that led us to this precipice? And perhaps most importantly, how can we pull back from the brink? To answer these questions, we must examine the events of the past. We must understand the forces that drove us here and the decisions that shaped our world. Only then can we hope to chart a path towards a more peaceful future. These events have set the stage for a potential global conflict, but it's not too late to change course. The future is not set in stone. It's up to us to write the next chapter in our global story. Now we find ourselves in a world that resembles a powder keg, waiting for a spark. Our current geopolitical landscape is a complex web of alliances, rivalries and power struggles, each capable of setting off a chain reaction. Let's take a moment to examine some of these potential flashpoints. At the heart of Europe, we have the ongoing tension between Russia and NATO. The rumble of tanks and the drone of aircraft echo through the region. The lines between them, once clear, are now blurred with uncertainty, creating an uneasy truce that could shatter at any moment. Then there's the Middle East, a region that has seen its share of conflict. The rivalry between Iran and Saudi Arabia, the Israel-Palestine issue, and the continuing instability in Syria and Iraq are all volatile elements in this powder keg. Crossing continents, we land in Asia, where the South China Sea dispute is causing ripples. China, along with several Southeast Asian nations, are locked in territorial disputes that have the potential to escalate. In the backdrop, we have the silent but ever-present threat of North Korea. Its unpredictable nature, coupled with its nuclear capabilities, adds another layer of complexity to the situation. Furthermore, the rise of cyber warfare and artificial intelligence has opened a new frontier in warfare. The capability to disrupt a nation's infrastructure without a single physical attack is a reality we're grappling with. Finally, we mustn't forget the role of economic tensions in this global powder keg. Trade wars, sanctions, and economic disparities can often be the catalyst for real-world conflicts. These are but a few of the potential sparks in our powder keg world. Each one a possible trigger point capable of setting off a chain reaction that could lead to a global conflict. But it's crucial to remember that conflict isn't inevitable. It's the choices we make, the policies we enact, and the diplomacy we engage in that will determine our path. The question is not if the spark will come, but when and where. But what could World War III mean for us and our planet? Ponder upon that for a moment. The potential consequences of a global conflict are vast, multifaceted, and indeed terrifying. This is not merely about politics or power, it's about the very existence of humanity and the future of our precious blue planet. Let's start with a hard truth. The loss of life would be unimaginable. The past global conflicts, despite all their horror, were not fought with the technology and weaponry we have today. The destructive power at our disposal is exponentially greater, and the number of lives at risk correspondingly higher. In the blink of an eye, cities could be leveled and millions of lives extinguished, but the toll of war extends beyond the immediate casualties. The ripple effects of such devastation would be felt globally, disrupting societies and shattering the very fabric of civilizations. Economically, the impact would be equally catastrophic. Global trade would grind to a halt. The infrastructure we rely on, from roads to ports, from factories to farms, could be destroyed or become inaccessible. The world economy as we know it could collapse, leading to widespread poverty, unemployment, and a drastic decrease in the standard of living for billions of people around the globe. And then there's the environmental destruction. War, by its nature, is devastating to the environment. The damage from conventional warfare is severe enough, but in a world where nuclear weapons exist, the potential for environmental catastrophe is unparalleled. We're talking about nuclear winter, a dramatic and dangerous cooling of the Earth's climate, which would devastate ecosystems, wipe out species, and make large parts of the planet uninhabitable. Add to this the fallout from nuclear radiation, which could linger for generations, poisoning the land, the water, and the air. The scars of this war would be etched not just in our history, but in our planet's geology, and the very genes of the life forms that survive. This is a grim picture, but it's one we must confront if we are to understand the stakes. And these are just the broad strokes. The full implications of a global conflict of this scale are impossible to predict in their entirety. The social, cultural, psychological, and existential consequences would be as profound as they are horrifying. So, when we talk about the possibility of World War III, we're not just talking about a battle between nations. We're talking about a battle for survival, for the future of humanity, for the very lifeblood of our planet. The stakes, as you can see, are unimaginably high. Let's imagine for a moment a world post-World War III. This is not a world of skyscrapers touching the clouds, nor is it a world of technological marvels. This is a world where the landscape is blighted by the scars of conflict, where the air is thick with the echoes of battles fought and lives lost. In this world, the once bustling metropolises are now ghost towns, the laughter of children replaced by the hollow wind whistling through the empty streets. The world's greatest monuments, the testaments to our shared history and culture, lie in ruins, reduced to rubble in the blink of an eye. The global landscape is irrevocably altered. Nations that once held sway have crumbled, their power structures shattered. New, unpredictable alliances form in the ashes, born out of desperation and the need for survival. The environment too bears the brunt of the conflict. The nuclear winter following the war blots out the sun, plunging the world into a prolonged darkness. Nature's rhythm is disrupted, causing widespread famine and disease. And what of humanity in this world? The survivors face a new reality, one where the basic necessities of life are a luxury. The social fabric is torn apart, trust is a rare commodity, and hope, a fading ember in the heart of the people. This is a world where the human spirit is tested to its limits, where every day is a struggle for survival, where the echoes of the past serve as a haunting reminder of the cataclysmic power of war. But let's remember, this is only a hypothetical scenario, a chilling reminder of the potential consequences of global conflict. It is a cautionary tale, a call to action for us all to strive for peace, to resolve our differences through dialogue and diplomacy, to remember that our shared humanity is stronger than any force that seeks to divide us. This is a future we must strive to prevent. So, how do we steer clear of this grim reality? The answer lies in a three-pronged approach: diplomacy, international cooperation, and conflict resolution. These are the tools that can guide us away from the brink of a third world war and towards a peaceful future. Let's start with diplomacy. Diplomacy is the art of negotiating, of finding common ground where there seems to be none. It's about understanding the other party's perspective and needs and working to find a solution that benefits all. It's about persuasion, not coercion. It's about building bridges, not walls. It's about dialogue, not silence. Diplomacy is the first line of defense against conflict. It's the shield that guards us from the swords of war. Next in line is international cooperation. We live in an interconnected world. Our actions affect others, and their actions affect us. It's like a giant web, where a ripple in one corner can create waves across the entire network. And this is why international cooperation is so crucial. It's about countries coming together, putting aside their differences, and working towards common goals. It's about sharing resources, knowledge, and expertise to tackle global challenges. It's about standing united in the face of adversity. International cooperation is the glue that holds the world together. It's the force that can prevent the fragmentation that leads to war. Lastly, we have conflict resolution. Conflicts are inevitable, they're a part of life. But how we handle them, how we resolve them, that's what makes all the difference. Conflict resolution is about finding peaceful solutions to disagreements. It's about mediation, negotiation, and compromise. It's about understanding, empathy, and respect. It's about turning adversaries into allies. Conflict resolution is the key to transforming the seeds of war into the fruits of peace. But it's important to remember that these are not just concepts or strategies. They're choices. Choices that we, as individuals, as communities, as nations, have to make. We have to choose to engage in diplomacy, to participate in international cooperation, to seek peaceful resolution of conflicts. We have to choose to reject violence, hatred, and division. We have to choose peace. And this choice is not just about avoiding a third world war. It's about creating a world where everyone can thrive. A world where resources are shared, not hoarded. A world where differences are celebrated, not feared. A world where peace is the norm, not the exception. So, is a third world war on the horizon? Only if we let it be. We have the power to change the course of history. We have the power to choose a different path. We have the power to choose peace. It is in our hands to shape a peaceful future. In conclusion, is World War III on the horizon? The question lingers, echoing the uncertainties and anxieties of our times. We've journeyed together through the timeline of tensions, peeked into the ominous powder keg of potential conflicts, and gazed upon the stark, grim realities of war. We've dared to imagine the world after such a catastrophic event, a world forever altered, scarred by the ravages of conflict. Yet we've also glimpsed the path to peace, the possibility of a future where diplomacy and understanding replace aggression and hostility. Let's not forget, every war begins with a choice. Every conflict is born from decisions made by individuals, by nations. The future, then, is not predetermined. It is shaped by our actions and our choices. We hold the power to steer our world towards peace or plunge it into war. As we ponder on the question, let's also remember the importance of peace, the value of diplomacy, and the strength in unity. The world is a tapestry, woven together by diverse threads of culture, tradition, and belief. It is our collective responsibility to ensure this tapestry remains intact, unmarred by the destructive forces of war. The answer, my friends, lies not in the stars, but in ourselves. It's a reminder that the future is ours to shape, a call to action to choose peace over conflict, understanding over intolerance, and unity over division. The horizon is uncertain, but within us lies the power to shape it.